Hello, YouTubers. This is Mark Tenlow. I want to talk to you a bit about the people who've been the most valuable in my life, and I want to make a few points about um, the relationships in my life and what makes my life worth living. So, over the 40 years that I've been alive, I've obviously met a lot of people. Not as many as a lot of other people have, but I've met enough people in my life to have had great influence from others and received great value and great privilege to be in the company of others. But the point I want to make is that these things are very fleeting and ephemeral, and we often forget those people that mean the most to us. My family comes to mind as being the people who I interact with the most, but as a matter of fact, my mum, dad, and brother, who are from my immediate family, haven't really impacted me as much as a lot of other people in my life have, to be honest. I wouldn't say that they're particularly bad people. They have caused me a lot of suffering. But if I were to name a top list of people that have really influenced my life, I would not name them in my top 10, for example. Um, and that's an interesting fact. So, the people from outside my family that have influenced me the most um, have generally been people who have been able to express themselves in ways which have been absolutely profound. They may not have done great things like, they may not have been a conduit to me being more wealthy or better off or um, giving me anything special. But the interesting thing about them is the way that they express themselves and affect who I am has been so profound that I'm overcome with how important they have been in my life. So it may have been just a one-off conversation on Facebook or something that they said or something that they did that has impressed me so much that I remember them so clearly as being such important people in my life. And there have been a few of them. They don't happen very often. I'd say once every few months at most. A person does something that really impresses me as being very, very important and very profound. So I've tried to make a list of these things, and it's really hard to do that because you forget what happens, and you just forget the event that took place, and it's hard to record things, and you lose track over time, which is unfortunate because I think the analogy that I'd like to make is that in The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, you start to miss people, and when people that had an impression, you remember them emotionally, but you don't remember their names, you don't remember the technical details of what happened when you were so affected by what they did. And it's the same thing in life. We have a lot of people that we love and we cherish who affect us, but some people are less valued than others, and some people are more valued. And I'm just going to try and think of a few people who have really positively influenced me. The one person I can think of in my email list at the moment is Danny Farrow. He is now apparently the head of the ACT mental health team, and he was never one of my clinicians, but I got to know him through associations with organising a Mindscapes festival event in Canberra once. And it's interesting that the emails that he wrote at one stage were so profoundly important to me that I had to reread them, and I kept them, and obviously I kept them, but they stood out to me as being so well written and so eloquently expressed that I just had to remember him doing that for me. I'm not saying that Danny is a particularly good value person overall. After I asked him to help me in deeper ways, he refused, and so Unfortunately, I couldn't get his assistance with making his great influence on my current case managers in Queensland. But his impact on my life was profound at the time that he wrote that email. Um, there have been great people who I've talked with in person. There's this, I think this guy, this young guy, about in year 12, I think he told me he was in year 12. And we had this most amazing conversation when I was in Foot Locker, which is this shoe shop in, I think it was Chatswood, Westfield Chatswood, which I visited at one stage a few years ago. And he impressed me as being such an impressionable and beautifully spoken young man that I will never forget the conversation that I had with him. We got along well. We got along so well, and he didn't hesitate. Our conversation flowed, and we mentioned so many good things. And he was just such a nice person to speak to that I tried to connect with him, but unfortunately I couldn't. He didn't respond to me through my newsletter that I gave him. But I would have loved to have been his lifelong friend. And there are people like that you will meet who you lose track of, who you really want to be friends with for the rest of your life, but they will never be in contact with you again. And he was one of these people. I've been in contact with a lot of people on Facebook who I think have been great value. One person who I remember who I had a really, really deep conversation with at once was named Peter Gibbs. I don't remember anything much about him other than the fact that we had a great conversation. There's another person who I'm in regular contact with at the moment named Eva Chu, who has been very generous to me and is a great Facebook chatter with me. She gifted me a piano keyboard and spent money on my cause and has been very generous to me in that way. And I value her friendship very much. So what I'm doing in 2020 is writing an events list. So things which, if I come to an event in my life which I think is going to be instrumental or important, I will write down and note that event has taken place in my life. And for that reason, I think my recording skills have become more comprehensive. But that's not to say that they're entirely comprehensive. There will be people that I miss that have affected me tremendously in my life, which I will forget, unfortunately. But hopefully, if I recall things with a better record of what's going on, I will be able to remember what happens, and I really appreciate the people in my life which have affected me the most in the most profoundly positive ways. So that's my spiel for me today. Let me think. Things like my mental health clinicians and stuff. Most of the time, these people haven't had an effect on me at all, and the effect that they've had on me has been pretty negative. I'm talking about the police. I'm talking about my clinicians, my psychiatrist, my case worker. These people have generally not really affected me and given me quality of life, and especially the case manager who I had to deal with for at least two to 3 years, Robert K, who I won't. His surname is hard to pronounce, so I don't think I can pronounce his surname. But people like him have not really affected my life in a positive way. And although he had good intentions and he was friendly and stuff, he didn't make a huge difference to my life. And that's the difference between him and someone who I mentioned earlier in this video, who have really, really changed my life and made things much better for me. So I pray and thank God for the people who have really, really helped me in life, and I hope that I can record these people and make a better note of who they are in the future. Bye for now.